All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem,
All right.
Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Newspeak, Disinformation, and Lawlessness. And pretty much, I was meditating on this on my walk. And I was watching, it was a thought that came to mind, and there was some, this title that you're listening to came to mind. And on my way back from my walk, I was listening to Mike Adams. I was listening to a little bit of Alex, Skull and Bones, and I also listened to a little bit of Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, and he had a particular scripture that he was highlighting in one of his podcasts on Judges. I believe he said 19th chapter, something like that. And pretty much he went and read the 21st chapter and the 25th verse, where it says, in those days that, they didn't have, matter of fact, let me get that real quick so I don't butcher it. And I'm going to give you the title for the video that I was, or the podcast that I was watching. Not Joshua, Judges 21 and 25, he said. Let me see. It says, in those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. And it's heavy because, like I said, I was already meditating on, Newspeak, Disinformation. And I don't remember what the third. Oh, yeah, it was the first title was Newspeak, Disinformation, and the NWO. But then when I started watching his or listening to his podcast, I instead switched it for the word lawlessness. Now, on Mike Adams, oh, wait a minute, which Health Ranger, it's called Mike Adams sermon hashtag 040, Judges 19. When nations embrace perversion, sin, and lawlessness, they soon fall into destruction. So if you go to, the Health Rangers website, let me see. It's called Natural News. You go to Natural News. Right now, today, it's up. They switch it up like every day or every other day. So if you go there now, you're going to see, Judges 19, when nations embrace perversion, sin, and lawlessness, they soon fall into, and let me see, they soon fall into destruction. And that's pretty much the direction that America is heading. And this is why, like today, when, you have a lot of Israelites that are waking up to knowing that they're Israelites, you have a lot of disinformation out there that's being propagated, spread abroad. And it's set up as a systematic way of deterring anyone from coming into the truth, which in their heart of hearts, they really believe that they're the ones pushing that for their agenda. But it's really the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai that's putting it in their spirit to do this, because there's a lot of Israelites out there that the Most High does not want, So therefore, he's going to make stumbling blocks appear, whether it's from Esau, whether it's from other Israelite groups, heathens, or whatever the case may be, so that the path to get to the truth can only be navigated by an Israelite if they are part of the elect. And that's the bottom line. It's a harsh reality. All right. So what I want to do is I just want to start off here in Newspeak. This is on Wikipedia, free encyclopedia. This is a novel that was written back in 1948, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, or 1949 actually. And it was made into a movie in 1984, the year 1984. And the name of the movie is called 1984. And in 1984 they made the movie. All right. So the novel is called 1984. It was written in 1949 by George Orwell, but then a movie was made about it in 1984 called 1984. And 1984 is in the dystopian novel. Now, a dystopian just simply means a bad place, right? As you can see here. Matter of fact, let me scroll up a little bit more. And I put these in the description box. A dystopia, also called a cacotopia or anti-utopia, is a community or society that is extremely bad or frightening. It is often treated as an antonym of utopia, which it is, um, which is the opposite. A term that was coined by Sir Thomas More and figures as the title of his best-known work, published in 1516, which created a blueprint for an let me see for an ideal society with minimal crime, violence, and poverty. So, in other words, everyone is searching for this utopia. Everyone's looking for a new world order where people, live in harmony and peace, and that's why they keep talking about peace. But there is going to be no peace until Yahweh Shai comes back, destroys this modern day system, these modern day rulers, and it sets up and establishes His kingdom. That's when true righteousness is going to be on the earth. And these nations are going to be servants. Now, once they serve out their punishment for 1,000 years, then the Edomites themselves will be done away with, totally burnt up and annihilated, and the other nations will get to govern among themselves, but they'll still be tributary to us. So they're going to get a fair shake. That's what the scriptures say. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And that's why the state of the world today is mourning. The whole world is mourning. The only ones that are really doing good are the international banking families that are at the top, that are oppressing everybody else underneath them by way of these economic woes that they're pushing upon the world. And we pretty much spoke about that, at camp yesterday, which the spirit was heavy, spirit was heavy. And the priest Yashalom sent me this still of a question that he posed into Google, and he said, "Who invented mortgages?" Then it goes on to say, overview: the origins of mortgages can be traced back to ancient civilizations, but the exact inventor is unknown. Ancient civilization, the concept of a mortgage dates back to ancient civilizations where a lender would exchange property for a borrower's promise to pay it over time, which goes into what? Proverbs 22:7. I kept messing the quote up yesterday. The borrower is subject to the lender. All right. So the ones that borrow, which are the poor, they're borrowing from the rich, which are the lenders. And eventually they become servants to them. Why? Because they won't be able to pay that debt off. And it speaks about King Artaxerxes of Persia, and it speaks about the Roman Empire. It speaks about English common law documents. It speaks about the United States, which is said the first mortgage in the United States was issued in St. Louis in 1776. The first real mortgage, I can't really make out the rest because it's cut off, but you get the idea. And the reason why the world has been on a downward spiral economically is because this is a part of the plans of the illuminated ones, to keep this place. It's going to be a dystopia for most. It's only going to be a utopia for few. All right. So it says in the dystopian novel 1984, 1949, that's when it was written, by George Orwell, Newspeak is the fictional language of Oceania. All right. And it's going to explain what Newspeak is. A totalitarian superstate to meet the ideological requirements of INGSOC, which is English socialism. In Oceania, the party created Newspeak, which is a controlled language of simplified grammar and limited vocabulary designed to limit a person's ability of critical thinking. And this is pretty much what it is. This is why you have these demons at the IUIC, the leadership, talking about, they want to go to the Koine Greek and to the Paleo Hebrew and to the Blue Letter Bible. Why? Because they are part of that. They are part of the limiting the people's minds from thinking, from critical thinking. That's what they'll say, that these guys can never break down the scriptures in the English. They always got to go to the Paleo Hebrew or to the Koine Greek. Like if that was just like such a heinous crime. It's a heinous crime to go to the Paleo Hebrew or go to the Koine Greek. That's just such a heinous crime. It's just out of this world. Like you're just the worst criminal on the planet Earth if you go to the Blue Letter Bible or if you go into the Paleo Hebrew or the Koine Greek. Lord forbid. Because that's worth the death penalty. If Draco was alive today, the Athenian lawgiver, he would give us a death penalty for using the Paleo Hebrew or the Koine Greek or going into the Blue Letter. When the scriptures say, be not ignorant of any matter, small or great. And it also says in the prologue of the Apocrypha, Ecclesiastes, the book of Ecclesiasticus, that things spoken in the things written in the Hebrew language and translated into another language have not the same force in them. So if they don't have the same force in them, would it not be a wise thing to go back and to research that particular phrase or word or whatever the case may be back in the original language that it was written in? I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to me. But it says here, in Oceania, the party created Newspeak, which is a controlled language of simplified grammar and limited vocabulary designed to limit a person's ability for critical thinking. The Newspeak language thus limits the person's ability to articulate and communicate abstract concepts, such as personal identity. This is why these devils are pushing what? You can't call them a he or a she. You got to call it an it or whatever. You got to call it by its pronoun, because no longer are there, men and women. They're just pronouns. They're just things. They're just inanimate objects. Self-expression and free will, which are thought crimes. See, and that's another thing, thought crimes. And this is why they wanted the children to go into the public schools, because they wanted to train the children how to think, not to think. Which fell in line with their so-called master plan of the future. Acts of personal independence that contradict the ideological orthodoxy of INGSOC collectivism. So anything that threatens the New World Order, they plan on stomping it out. Yep, threats to freedom of speech, writings and action, thought, though often trivial in isolation, are cumulative in their effect, and unless checked, lead to a general disrespect for the rights of the citizens. Exactly. Now here, it's funny because this is another word that I had, censorship, right? And you can look it up. The word censorship means the suppression or prohibition. I'm not reading it off I'm reading it off the elder's computer, so you're not going to see it. So just type in censorship, CENSORSHIP. The suppression or prohibition of any parts of books, films, news, etc. And those of you brothers out there and few sisters that may have watched the movie Equilibrium or other movies such as that, like 1984, so on and so forth, arts, books, films, independent thoughts, all of those things were banned. All right, so that you couldn't have or formulate an opinion except for the opinion of the government, the new established government. It says that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security. What security? The security of the New World Order. And that's why they when you go on these different platforms, it's a free platform, but you have to abide by the rules. You can't say whatever you want to say. You really don't. You have free speech, but you really don't. It's just like you have a plan with a phone company, right? And you have unlimited data, but you really don't. You have limited unlimited data. That's why when your phone is connected to Wi-Fi, it works perfectly. But once it disconnects from the Wi-Fi and you go to use your own, data, you catch hell. Your shit buffers. It doesn't work properly until you go back somewhere and connect back to the Wi-Fi. Now you got unlimited data. These devils are unbelievable, man. All right. You get that. Now the next word, well, really, that goes into the next word also goes into it also, but Isaiah 5:20 says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil. Why? Because what they're doing is they're switching around the things that are good. They're making them seem like they're really bad, and the things that are bad, they're making them seem like they're really good. Because remember, the people that are running this world, which how do you know who's running the world? Find out who you can't speak against. And those of you already know, when you speak about the small hats, you say certain things about them and use certain keywords, your videos will get taken down. You'll be labeled an anti-Sem, so on and so forth. All right? So they do not abide by the rules, the regulations of the scriptures. Why? Because they are the devil that the Bible speaks of. And what they function off of, what really gets them off, what really gets them going, is something called the towel to the mud. Put it together. All right? And in that book, everything that is observed or worshipped in that book is a total opposite than what the scriptures say. All right. This is why the Lord said this in Psalms 50 and 16. But they'll be quick to pick up the Bible, the Torah, remember the Tanakh, the Bible, and they'll say that America is a Judeo-Christian, they're on the Judeo-Christian values. But yet everything that they say and do is contrary to what the scriptures say. From the way that they got this land, to everything else in between, and the legislation that has been passed ever since this devil has been in office and in power on this side of the world. Psalms 50 and 16, but unto the wicked the Most High saith, this is the Lord putting this to these devils, the actual wicked, which is not just talking about a person, it's talking about a nation of people known as the Edomites, the people upon whom the Lord has indignation forever, or the people of the Most High's curse to judgment, because they're cursed in two ways. They're cursed because of the way they look. That's a curse, number one. And they're also cursed because they're set up to be the sacrifice at the end, the destruction, to show the world what is the payment for being wicked. So the Lord said, but unto the wicked the Most High saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes? What are the Lord's statutes? Let's look up this word statutes. This includes the laws, statutes, and the commandments that are written within the scriptures. The word for statute is chak. Chak. Statute, ordinance, limit, something prescribed, meaning pre-written. Do. So it ain't like they don't have the records. It ain't like they don't have the instructions. They do not follow the instructions. All right. So you have a law, and then you have a statute. All right. So you have laws that are written out, and then you have sub laws and laws. Okay, like in this, like for instance, you have thou shalt not commit adultery in the 10 commandments, right? But it doesn't say within the 10 commandments what adultery is or what the penalty for adultery is. But when you go to other statutes or other bylaws or sub laws of it, it'll tell you that adultery is when a man lays down with a married woman or another man's woman. And it tells you that you shall be put to death if you do those things. You see, so you have the law, and then you have the statutes or the sub laws or laws that explain what will happen if you break this particular law. Okay, so going back onto the wicked, the Lord says, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Now, what is a covenant? A covenant is a contract, an agreement, which these devils do not like to deal with. All right. The Hebrew word is barayath, which means covenant. Now you have the word British. Brit is where you get the word barayath. Ish is where you get the word man. Sometimes it means pertaining to, sometimes it means man. In the case of British, it pertains to covenant man. And another name is also Anglo-Saxon. Anglo is angelic sons, and then Saxon is Isaac, angelic sons of Isaac. All right, so the British, original British, and the Anglo-Saxons are Israelites, the so-called Negroes that were ruling in that land at the time, right? The tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, however they were scattered in those regions. So that's the actual sons, or the actual sons of the covenant. All right. And these devils took those names upon themselves, just like they took the name of Macedonians upon themselves, the name of Greeks upon themselves, the name of Romans, because the actual Romans go back to Romulus and Remus. Romulus is where the word Rome comes from, or Roman. Romulus and Remus were Japhetic men that were twins. All right, Romulus and Remus. These are the originators of the Roman Empire. Their line goes back to the brown-skinned people of Japheth. Okay? So, Barayath, covenant, alliance, pledge between men. See, it's a constitution, an ordinance, monarch to subjects. And the monarch that gave this is Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai. The subjects are the Israelites, not all nations. But when the kingdom of heaven is established, all nations will be subjected to our laws. Because if they don't keep it, either they're going to get their head smashed in, or they're going to get goodies taken away from them. Like the Lord said, if they don't come to serve the Feast of Tabernacles, which right now is only for the Israelites, but in the kingdom, the nations will have to follow it. They will have no rain. For what? For their crops. You see? Agreement, pledge, man to man. Right? You have an alliance of friendships. And if that alliance of friendship falls apart, how do those friends become friends again? By reconciling. See, the Most High Yahweh is the friend of Abraham. He promised Abraham with an oath that he would, his seed will inherit, that land from Egypt all the way up, to that whole, all the way up to I believe it was the river of Assyria or something like that, up in that area. What they call the Fertile Crescent or the Levant. They were, would get all that land. We fell out of favor with the Most High. But because he made that promise with an oath to Abraham, we were able to be reconciled and be brought back into the friendship of the Heavenly Father. All right. Alliance of marriage. When a man and a woman get married, get together, and the man plants his rod into the woman, that seals the marriage. Because when you look into the beloved Sandevin's Bible Dictionary, as they call it, them wacky-tacky Christians, it tells you that marriage is constantly nourished and consummated by the act of sex. Now, I've never ran across the law. I've heard about it. I've spoken about it. Maybe Lord's will, if I remember, I'll try to see if I could find it, But there is an actual law. I'm pretty sure it's throughout the United States, but I know definitely in New York, if I'm not mistaken, where if a man gets with a woman and they get married, legally, paper, whatever, and a year goes by and that man and that woman have not had sex, that marriage can be disannulled. Why? Because it was not properly consummated. Consummated is when they have sex, and it is constantly nourished by sex. Because when a man gets with a woman in the law, if a man has a wife, he loves her. After a while, he finds another woman. The first woman that he has, he still has to give her sex. That's a part of the contract. Even though he may be into the new woman more than the old woman, he still has to give her her duty of marriage, which is what? Sex. And that's what continuously nourishes and consummates the marriage. All right. When you look up the word marriage in the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary, I believe that's where it was at, if I'm not mistaken. It's been years since we read that. All right. So you get a covenant, which is an agreement, divine ordinance with signs or pledges. Right. And what was the pledge? We were the pledge. Because that's why the Lord had Moses and Aaron do what? They cut the offered the oxen's blood, sprinkled the book, sprinkled the people. And then the words that Jake said back then, the agreement, that was what sealed the deal. That was a signature. Okay? So going back, the Lord is saying to the wicked, the Edomites, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? And we could go all throughout the covenant. The land Sabbaths, the Sabbath itself, adultery, the Mo lifestyle, both men and women, theft, lying, coveting, murder, on down the line. And you'll see that he did not follow not one of these laws, but he so-called established America upon Judeo-Christian principles. And that's why he gave you Jesus, which goes back to Isus, the Celtic god, which means earth pig. And that's why they pushed the swine on the Edomite that brought Christianity, and on the natives that were here, the Israelites. It says, seeing thou hatest what? Instruction, and casteth my words behind thee. How do we know that this fits the Edomites, the so-called white people? Because they claim to be Christians, which is blasphemy. But when you look at their actions, it goes contrary to what the scriptures say. So the Lord got these devils. Just bear with me 1 second, Baba Pasha. Okay, so they hate instructions, bottom line. So Let's go back here now. Isaiah 5 and 20. Woe to them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And that's exactly what they do. That's where you have your Newspeaks, right? Which is a changing of the language to limit, your creative thinking, so to speak, you know. And you have disinformation, which is the second part of the lesson. Disinformation is false information deliberately spread to deceive people. Disinformation is an orchestrated adversarial activity. And who's the adversary? Satan, Esau. Activity in which actors employ strategic deceptions and media manipulation tactics to advance political, military, or commercial goals. And what are their goals? To bring about a new world order, one world religion, one world currency, the world coming together as one. You had many songs in the past that pushed that new world order vibe. You had the Age of Aquarius. You had Caravan of Love by the Isley Brothers. In other words, to be everybody to be as one. You had many others. I just can't think of any other right now. All right, and that's what is there for. It says disinformation is implemented through attacks that weaponize multiple rhetorical strategies, right? And that's why it's a constant repetition. That rhetoric, the word is rhetoric, sir. Inside joke. Rhetorical strategies and forms of knowing, right? And then you'll have things that are constantly repeated, and then you'll have individuals that will propagate this and make it public and make it seem, appealing. They have a very good argument. That's why it says here in that's why it's important to have a strong foundation in the truth. Romans 16 and 17 says what? Now let me see, Salaki, just another one came to mind. I believe that's Proverbs 14. Oops, let me go back. Yep, so let me go back. Romans 16:17. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which you have learned. And what does the mark mean? Scopeo, meaning keep an eye on them, beware of them. This is why if your foundation is not strong, you will get swept away by the refuse and the winds of lies, right? So anything that's contrary to what you've learned in this truth and contrary to this doctrine, which you have learned, avoid them. Why? Because if you continue to listen to them, you're going to be swept by that wind of falsehood. That's why it says, be no more children tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine. Every time something new comes up, you're right there in the fray. You're like a straw in the wind, the inside joke. For those of you brothers that seen the movie Peter and Paul by Anthony Hopkins was in there. He played the Apostle Paul. You're just a straw in the wind. And avoid them. For they that are such serve not our Lord Yahushua. And we see this a lot, man. But their own belly. We see the majority of Israelites that have woken up are not about serving Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. They're about serving their own belly, their own mind, their own thoughts, their own appetite. It's not about what Yahweh Bashem Yahushua wants. It's about what they want. That's why they're going to, the Lord said he's going to destroy 2/3 of Israel here in America, but no, they're going to gather all Israel. They're going to make a way that the Lord said ain't going to happen. They're going to make it happen, though. They're going to defy all the odds, the divine odds, and they're going to go out and they're going to, make sure that all Israel wakes up. It's an amazing thing to watch. And that's why the Lord said he said this to Esau to the Assyrians, but this is the attitude that some of these Israelites take also. Let's see if I can find that. I know it's in Isaiah 10. Mm, I believe this is it. Isaiah 10:15. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? And that's what these guys are doing. They're magnifying themselves against the Most High, and they're undermining the Most High. Because here it is, the Lord. I mean, it's clear that only the elect are going to wake up. It's clear that there's going to be the slain of the Lord shall be many. But no, somehow, some way, these guys are going to wake up all Israel. They're just going to go against divine order. Why? Because they're serving their own belly. They're not serving Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. That's why they disdain the names of Yahweh and Yahushai. You can't make the name a doctrine, but the names are a part of the doctrine. You dig? It says, as if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up. Right. You'll never, an axe is powerful. A saw is powerful. A rod can be powerful. But you've never seen an axe, a saw, or a rod lift up itself and go to work. It's an instrument, but that instrument needs to be, put into effect by someone else. Somebody has to be the driving force to make those things happen. They don't do it on their own. And that falls into Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. The elder put, let's see, Psalms 115:3. But our power is in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever he hath pleased. That's it. We were speaking about that at camp also. Proverbs 18:10. The name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. You know what I like too? I love this precept. Or shall the staff, or it, as if the staff should lift up itself against up itself, as if it were no wood. I like this precept also too, dealing with what the elder put up there in Psalms 115:3. It's our Psalms, I believe it's 147. I haven't gone to this in a while. No. Or is it 145? Let's see. Psalms 145. Like I said, I haven't gone to this precept in years. Right. Psalms 145:17. Barak Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is righteous in all his ways and holy in all his works. So everything the Lord does is, he does it in it's righteous. The Lord is nigh unto all them that call upon him, to all that call upon him in truth. And no liars of the truth. Okay, dig it. Now, going back to Romans 16:18, for they that are such serve not our Lord Yahushai, but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. See? Why? Because they, what's the word I'm looking for? They discourage their members from going into language or languages. They discourage their members from going back into the Hebrew and the Greek, which the scriptures were originally written in. And when you go back to the Hebrew and the Greek, you get a broader and better understanding of what is being said. Because there's something called lost in translation. There are certain things that are lost in translation, no matter how meticulous or careful you are in in translating something exactly how it's written in the other language, you're always going to miss some part of the translation. So what's the best thing to do? Go back to the original language so you can get a better grip or better understanding of what's being said. Now, here in Proverbs 14:15, the simple believeth every word, but the prudent, meaning the wise man, looketh well to his going. Why? Because he's going to study. He's going to look things up. And a part of studying, right, as it tells us in the book of Second Timothy, that's why you brothers and a few sisters that are here now, that are learning the right way, you should feel blessed. We should all feel blessed because as I've been speaking, the Spirit's been having me say, when you go back to the beginnings of when this truth was being taught, there were obstacles, but there weren't as many obstacles as there are today. It was a lot more open. There was more access to the truth back then. Why? Because it was small. It was that mustard seed that they didn't look at too much as a threat, even though they were trying to stomp it out even back then. Because why would you come with a suitcase full of money, right, or a blank check, and tell individuals to write whatever they want to stop teaching what they're teaching? What is so damaging about what these men are teaching that you're willing to pay them whatever it takes for them not to teach it? Why? What is it about this message that we're teaching that is so detrimental to these devils, and it's so important for them to pay people off and to demonize people for teaching it, and to try to stop people from teaching it? Why is that? Think about it. So 2 Timothy 2:15, study to show thyself approved unto the Most High. Now, I've mentioned this before. The word study means to scrutinize. And when you go to the Spanish, right, and I have a hard time saying that word in Spanish. It's kind of hard to say. Okay, that one. Oh, no, you know what? My bad. I know what it was. It was actually, is that St. John 5:39? Yep, 5:39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. Now, when you look up this word search in the Spanish, right? Right. Escudriñad, which means to scrutinize, right? Search. And that's a part of studying. Part of studying is to search. Search is erunao, to search, examine into, right here, investigate. So you have to become a detective. And what is part of the search? What is a part of the examination? What is a part of the investigation? Going back into the origin of the word where it was written in originally, to find out or get a closer or a better understanding to what's being said. And that's a part of studying. All right. So going back to here, right? 2 Timothy 2:15, study to show thyself approved unto who? Unto the Most High. When we look up the word study, is the word spudazo, right? It says to hasten, make haste, to exert oneself, endeavor, give diligence. Now, you can't go crazy, because if you go too crazy, you're going to exhaust yourself. You're going to run yourself ragged. And this was where the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and the guidance and inspiration from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai leads us. That's why he says, if I knock, and if you come and open the door and answer, I will come and sup with you. Me and my Father will come and sup with you. Right? Ecclesiasticus 12 and 12. And further by these, my son, be admonished or be corrected of making many books. There is no end. And that's why, especially now, and it's not talking about just any book, any writing of any book. It's talking about books about who the Most High is, Yahweh Shai. Now, remember years ago, the high priest Ariah said that this is talking about books written about the Most High. Because when you go to the library, you just go under religion. You have a whole section of reference books. You go to the actual you go to a library or you go to a bookstore, and like Barnes and Nobles, you have section for religion, and you see reams and reams of books. And those reams and reams of books are stuff that's been written over the ages, over time. And those reams and reams of books are pretty much the scriptures. They is the forefront, but there's a lot of disinformation in there. And it's just like these different avenues today that are propagating or teaching that they have the truth, and they don't. It just leads you further and further away from Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, so and further by these, my son, be admonished or be corrected of making many books. There is no end, and much study, meaning too much study, is a weariness of the flesh. See, let's look up the word study here. In the Greek, it's spudazo. In the Hebrew, is lahag. Study, and devotion to study, which goes back to the word the scholar or school. Like I said in the book that we had years ago on root words, the word school meant leisure, schol, for the word scholar, meant leisure. Now, when you try to look it up, it'll send you to school and this, that, and the other. But school, schol, not skull as in the Viking skull, giving a cheer, but skull, the shortened form or the root word of scholar, goes back to the word leisure. Now, what is leisure? Leisure is free time to study or study time. Leisure, ledger, reading, leer, to read. Okay? Oh, man, this brother, man, is on fire. Proverbs 25:16, has thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomited. Yeah. So you have to study, but then there has to be a point where, okay, I'm going to back up off of it right now, because, it's getting to be a little overwhelming. Like I remember years ago, I was having a conversation with Elder Apostle Tahar, and he told me that, sometimes he'll study and he'll be reading the scripture and he'll be so locked in that sometimes he had to pry himself away. And I was like, wow. Like in my mind, I didn't say it, but in my mind, I was like, wow. That's, that to me, that blew my mind. I was like, wow, that's some power right there, So it says, from an unused root, meaning to be eager, intense mental application, study. All right, so too much study, let's go back, is a weariness of the flesh. Bashar is flesh. And the word for weariness is the word yaga yai, which is a root word to yaga yai. A wearing, tiring, see? Because the flesh, gets fatigued. See, right there, fatigue. That's why you see people that study and then after a while they start getting headaches, or you see them, rubbing their eyes, because it's like their eyes are hurting from so much reading or whatever the case may be. You have to, be balanced with everything. All right. So to hasten, make haste, exert oneself, endeavor, give diligence. That's the word to study. So study to show thyself approved unto who? Unto the Most High. A workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And a lot of these individuals are not dividing or rightly dividing the word of truth. They're dividing it, but they're not rightly dividing it. Let's go to, is that 3rd John or 2nd John? I think it's 3rd John 1:9. I wrote into the church by, oh no, that's not the one. Nope, that's not it. Let me go to Second John. That's dealing with diastrophe, diatrophies. Second John 1:9. Whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Yahweh Shai have not the Most High. And the part of Yahweh Shai's doctrine is what? Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai's doctrine is what? Their names. He that abideth in the doctrine of Yahweh Shai, he hath both the Father and the Son. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. Don't even shalom him. He says, for he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. You see? So let's go back to disinformation. Disinformation is implemented through attacks that weaponize multiple rhetorical strategies and forms of knowing, including not only falsehoods, but also truths. Because in order to tell a lie, you have to have the truth mixed in there. That's why whenever you deal with these individuals that are lying, they always have parts of the truth in there. Because you have to have truth in order to tell lies. It says, have truths and value judgments to exploit and amplify culture wars and other identity-driven controversies. In contrast, misinformation refers to inaccuracies that stem from inadvertent error. Misinformation can be used to create disinformation when known misinformation is purposefully and intentionally disseminated. Fake news has sometimes been categorized as a type of disinformation, but scholars have advised not using these terms interchangeably or using fake news and whatever. It's disinformation. You can read more. Etymology. The English word disinformation comes from the application of the Latin prefix dis to information, making the meaning reversal or removal of information. See? So it's a removal from information. All right? It's information, but it's the wrong information. All right? And it goes into history, so on and so forth. And the final one is lawlessness. Lawlessness is a lack of law in any of various senses of that word. Lawlessness may describe various conditions. And all of this stuff you see happening, mainly economically, is causing a desperate mind state, is causing a state of individuals looking to establish their own rule of law for their own survival, because they're seeing, I pay my taxes, I abide by the rules, I abide by the traffic laws, I go to court, I do this, I do that, I go to work, I pay my bills, but I'm still behind, and I've been obeying the law. So what has that got me? So people are going to get to the point where they're going to get tired of abiding by the rules. And you know what that's going to bring? And this is what these devils want. Order ad chaos, order out of chaos. Let me just get this precept and then I'll go back. You brothers already know where we're going. And these two chapters are dynamite. All right, so let's go back. In society, anomie is a breakdown of social bonds between an individual and their community, in which individuals do not feel bound by the moral strictures of society. Anarchy, meaning without leadership, right? An is no or not, and archy is rulership or ruler, without leadership. And this is pretty much what this society is heading towards. Lawlessness and anarchy, which is self-rule, is a condition in which a person or group of people reject societal hierarchies, laws, and other institutions. It often entails the dissolution of government, right? The overthrow of the government. Anarchism, it's the same thing, right? It's a self-governed society. Civil disorder, that's another one. That's why they call people that don't abide by certain rules, they call them what? Dissidents. All right, let's look up that term, dissidents. And we'll come back to that. Dissidents. Dissidents and activists were among the earliest adopted of encrypted. Come on, man, just give me the definition. Dissident, a person who opposes official policy, especially that of an authoritarian state. So this is what we're under. They're the ones that's ruling, and pretty much this is really a tyrannical government, and it's getting worse and worse. But it has the pretense of being, everyone is free. Everybody could do what they want. Everybody's treated equally. Everybody can make the same money. They can live a happy life, which is BS. Now, going back to, lawlessness. Civil disorder or civil unrest refers to public disturbances generally involving groups of people, and that's why you have a lot of these so-called protesters, right, that are out there. That the grassroots of them are sincere, but the higher ups and some other individuals sprinkled in there are agents of chaos. What are they called? There's a term for it. Agent provocateurs, and you can look that up. It says, and resulting in danger or damage to personal property, civil disorder is a breakdown of civil society, right, which are these cities, and may be a form of protest. It may take various forms such as illegal parades, sit-ins, riots, sabotage, and other forms of crime. And that's what you see going on right now. As of today, I believe it is, there's going to be something going on out there in France, some type of protest or something like that, which is probably going to erupt into violence. So these things are all generated and paid for by the international bankers, which want this chaos because they want society to collapse. They want people to bug out because that will give them the excuse that they need. It'll be a serious crisis that they will not let go to waste. And this is what they want, because they want order out of chaos. And they get the people so tired of the chaos and the violence that they will be willing to say, we'll give up our freedoms just to live in peace. But it's going to backfire. Why? Because the Lord is going to make sure it backfires. So let's go to 2 Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Why? Because we're at the time where all of these prophecies are starting to be fulfilled. All right? And propagated and pushed out there. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and we see it happening. We see the total collapse of society. We see the total collapse of morals. The blatant, cold. The Lord said, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And you're seeing that. It was a time, those of you that are a little older, there was a time when you would walk down the street and you would get a warm welcome, from Jake out there, or just anybody. Hey, good morning, how you doing? Now you say good morning to people, they look at you like they want to bite your head off. Or you say good morning to somebody and they, if it's a woman, they think you're trying to talk to them. Oh, I got a man or whatever. Yeah, bitch, I was just saying hello, which I don't usually say shit to these hoes anyways. But sometimes you walk in and see somebody, hey, how you doing, morning, whatever the case may be. But it's to the point now you can't even say that. It says, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And that's what's happening. Everything is coming down to the wire. And one people shall stand up up and fight against another. It goes your class wars, your race wars, your civil wars, and swords in their hands. Yeah, because it's going to get that bad out here. That people are going to have to resort to violence. Some people are going to resort to violence because they're desperate, and someone has something that they don't have, and some people are going to have to resort to violence to protect what they have from somebody that doesn't have it, that's trying to take it from them. For there shall be sedition among men. See, there's going to be an uprising against each other and also against the government. Because when we look up the word sedition, right? Sedition. That's why all of these terms are important. Sedition is overt conduct such as speech and organization that tends towards rebellion against the established order. And what is the established order? This American government and the governments of the world, which are pretty much, robbing the people of their rights with the promise to protect their rights. You see? Man, brother. You know what? I'm going to read all of this. Agent provocateur, an opposite person who induces others to be violent or commit an illegal act in order to incriminate them or discredit a cause. And that's what they've been doing. That's why you see that devil, that demon, Vocab Malone, anytime something comes up that may have a semblance of something that makes Israel look bad, he's going to report on it and try to make it seem like everybody's like that. That's a stereotype that the world has of Jake. But meanwhile, you have pastors that are moles, that are robbing people in the churches, that are doing all kind of fuck shit, but he don't talk about that. And there's more incidences of violence in the Christian church than there is among the Hebrew Israelites. But it's a propaganda. It's a slander. It's a demonization. But that's okay. So it says, one employed to associate with suspected persons and by pretending sympathy with their aims to incite them to some incriminating action, which you got your spies. And what did those spies do? They infiltrated the society. They got, paid by the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, or whatever agency that was working for them to, because they might have got caught doing some type of crime. So now they have to, join this group to bring the group down, to incriminate the group. You see? So they won't go to jail. 2 Ezra 14:16, for yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. For look how much the world shall be weaker through age. So much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein. Why? Because we're coming to the time of the end. And knowledge is increasing, and the prophecies are increasing. And everything is ramping up. Why? It's moving faster. And there are a lot more people on the planet Earth today than there ever was, in history. You go back to the early 1800s, there was only 1 billion people on the planet. You come up 100 years later, 1926, I think it was, 29, around there was 2 billion people. And from that point to now, you have over 8 billion people on the planet. And I was meditating on that because I did a lesson on that years ago, that the reason why there's so many people now on the planet is because the Lord is about to judge the world and all these spirits that you see on the earth. They're being judged daily, but then the ultimate judgment will be the nuclear destruction. And there's going to be a lot of people worldwide that's going to die from everything that's going to go down. All right. So going back to 2 Ezra, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. Right. Why are they going to invade one another? Because now people have a certain distance that they keep from each other so that they won't violate each other's laws. But it's going to come a point where they're going to cross that line. Why? Because you're going to have lack of food, lack of, shelter, lack of clothing. Lack of everything. So when you have something that the other person doesn't have, you're open game. All right. It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. So the established law is not going to be regarded. Because they see now they call the police for whatever incident and they end up being the ones that get killed by doing the right thing, reporting to the authorities. But the authorities come and destroy you, kill you, or arrest you. And you're the one that's the victim. So people gonna be like, man, fuck the cops, fuck the police. You know, they're gonna be like, man, every time I seen people call the police, they're the ones that get arrested or get killed. So people are gonna take matters into their own hands. And we see a small example of that in these different smash and grabs and this total, madness that's going on in these major cities, San Francisco, New York, and different other places where businesses are leaving because of the theft and the violence that's going on in these inner cities. This is all prophecy, man. One word, prophecy. It says, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So there's going to be anarchy, lawlessness. It's going to be something that these people are going to say, well, you know what? The police ain't going to do nothing about it, so I'm going to do something about it. Yep, that's a good one. 2 Timothy 3:1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. Yeah. And that's what we're about to witness. It says a man shall desire to go into a city. Why is that? Because people as a whole are not looking to go into the country. Country is, people that live, somewhat spaced apart. You don't really have any major things going on there. The cities are where it's happening. Those are the major attractions. These are the places where, mostly business of buying and selling is done. As far as, retail goods and clothing and, cars and buying whatever. So that's going to be shut down because that is the major consumer traffic of America. We're just dealing with America right now. That's where the major consumer traffic is, which is in these major cities. And that's what we're witnessing San Francisco, or the aftermath of San Francisco, being the blueprint for all the rest of these major cities across America. And you're seeing the same actions happening in these major cities as was happening in San Francisco that led to the destruction of that city. That's what you have when you go to these major cities. I'm telling you, you go to these major cities, the homeless population is overwhelming in the cities. Shit and piss and just foul. It's horrendous. Then the thefts and the smash and grabs and all that going on. That's all systematic, man. Remember, this devil has a plan. They got more money than they know what to do with. So it's a small thing that they'll pay a few $1,000s to some clown to do some stupid shit to further their agenda. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Why? For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. Jacob's trouble. The houses shall be destroyed, because it's going to come a point where people's doors are going to be getting kicked in. And men shall be afraid. Why? Because there's not going to be any rule of order. That safe zone that you're accustomed to is not going to be there. That safety net. It's not going to be there anymore. That's another good one. Matthew 24:12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. There's another good one. Isaiah 24:11. There is a crying for wine in the streets, which is what? For the truth. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. And this is that city of confusion when you read the 10th verse of Isaiah 24. And it's befitting. Why? Because America, Babylon the Great, the word Babylon means confusion. And this is that city of confusion. Excuse me. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods. Why? Not because he says, man, I just feel like doing some devious shit. You know, matter of fact, I don't like that man. Anyway, I'm gonna go kick his door down. You know, no, it's gonna be because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Remember that desperate mind state. People are gonna be in such desperation. Remember, people are not used to going without eating or without drinking, especially this generation now. And you've seen videos over and over again in these different fast food stores. You take 2 seconds longer than you normally do. That demon is gonna come through the window, or they're gonna start throwing shit around, or they're gonna just lose their goddamn mind, or they're gonna jump over the counter and try to fight you or try to kill you because you did, instead of giving them 27 fries, you only gave them 25, or because you didn't transact, the transaction didn't go by quick enough. You were 2 seconds late. They just lost it. I'm telling you, man, when these cities were created, it pretty much destroyed, the average person's mind of the way they think. So yeah, man. So hey, Newspeak, disinformation, and lawlessness. These are the things that are coming. These are the things that are going to destroy this place. And that censorship that we spoke about earlier, of them trying to stop the word, that's also what's going to lead to the great persecution of Israel. The ones that know that they're Israelites. And that's what's going to, that's what's going to separate the ones that are real from the ones that are fake. Matthew 10:16, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpent and harmless as doves. Right. You just got to know how to operate, especially in these times. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. This happened to Yahushua, the disciples, and it's also going to happen now. This is a blueprint for what's going to happen now. And you shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake. This goes hand in hand with Isaiah the 13th chapter, that they may go into the gates of the nobles for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But wait a minute, I thought we were supposed to tell the Gentiles they could be saved. See, this is where context comes into play. These Gentiles are talking about the actual nations, but when it speaks about the Gentiles being saved, that's talking about the Israelite foreigners. You got to know how to differentiate the two. Then it says, but when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what you shall speak, for it shall be given you in that hour, that same hour, what you shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. Remember, this happened to Moses. He had to go before the Pharaoh, and the Lord was with him. And he made him speak to Pharaoh what the Lord wanted him to speak. So yeah, man. Newspeak, disinformation, and lawlessness coming to a city near you. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.